The morning came gently, as if afraid to disturb the quiet after the storm of the night before. Soft sunlight spilled across the long glass windows of the Kang mansion, touching the marble floors with gold. Everything looked calm, almost too calm. Zara stood in the kitchen, dressed neatly in her pale blue blouse, her hair pulled back. She moved automatically, pouring juice, slicing fruit, setting plates, but her mind was far from still. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the memory of last night like a whisper. The way he'd looked at her. The warmth that had sparked in the air between them. The kiss that had happened so softly it felt like a dream. You shouldn't have done that. Maybe not, but you did. She tried to push the thought away. Mia ran in, laughing, clutching a toy rabbit. Auntie Zara. Daddy says he's coming for breakfast. Zara froze. He never came for breakfast. That was her first warning that this morning would not be ordinary. Hyun-woo entered the dining room a few minutes later, perfectly dressed, hair-styled, every inch of him the polished CEO again. If not for the faint stiffness in his shoulders, she could have believed last night had never happened. "Good morning," he said politely, his voice low, calm, businesslike. "Good morning, sir," she answered, managing a small smile. He sat down across from her. The distance between them felt wider than the entire table. Mia was oblivious, swinging her feet and chatting happily about her storybook. "Daddy, Auntie Zara taught me about clouds yesterday. Did you know they have names?" "Cirrus, Cumulus, and Stratus," Zara said softly, grateful for something safe to talk about. Hyun-woo smiled faintly. "You've been teaching her well." The words were warm, but his tone, too careful. Zara nodded, her throat tight. "She's bright. She learns fast." Then came silence, the kind that feels heavy, like something unspoken hanging over the table. It was Mia who broke it. "Daddy, you're quiet today. Are you thinking about work?" Hyun-woo hesitated, glancing at Zara before answering. "Something like that," he said. And then, catching Zara's eyes for the briefest moment, he added quietly, "Some things are harder to stop thinking about than others." Her spoon froze halfway to her lips. Neither of them said anything more. The rest of the day passed like a slow dance neither of them wanted to lead. Zara spent the morning with Mia, reading and painting in the playroom. The house felt too big, the air too still. She caught herself glancing at the door now and then, half expecting to see him there. When she didn't, she told herself it was better that way. Hyun-woo buried himself in work. He took meeting after meeting, but every time someone spoke, he found his mind drifting back to the Sky Lounge, to the way she'd looked at him when she said, "You make this house alive again." By afternoon, he gave up pretending. He found himself standing by his office window, staring at the rain clouds gathering outside. "What am I doing?" he thought. "She works for me. She trusts me." But beneath the guilt, there was another truth, softer, persistent. She had become the first person to make him feel anything in years. Evening brought rain again, a soft, steady drizzle that coated the garden in silver. Zara stood under the veranda roof, watching the droplets dance on the stone path. The door opened quietly behind her. "You'll catch a cold," Hyun-woo said, his voice softer now. She smiled faintly without turning. "You worry too much, sir." "Only when I have reason to." When she turned, he was already beside her, holding an umbrella. They stood together under it, close enough to feel the same rhythm of breath. "It's funny," she murmured. "I used to love the rain. It always felt like a fresh start." "It still can be," he said, "if you let it." Zara looked up at him, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. "You make it sound easy." "It's not. But maybe that's what we are both learning, how to start again." A quiet moment passed, their eyes meeting, both understanding that this wasn't just about the rain. Later that evening, after Mia had gone to bed, Zara brought some papers to his study. The lights were low, a single lamp casting a warm glow over the room. "I thought you might need these reports for tomorrow," she said. He nodded, taking them, his fingers brushing hers for an instant. Too brief, too much. "Thank you," he murmured. Then, after a pause, "Zara." Her heart skipped. "Yes." "About last night." She looked down, unsure. "You don't have to say anything." But I want to. He sighed, setting the papers aside. I haven't felt this. He stopped himself. You've reminded me what it's like to breathe again. Her chest tightened. You don't owe me healing, Hyun Woo. You just need to let yourself live. He stepped closer, his voice quiet. And what if living means? He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. For a heartbeat, they just stood there, two people in the half-light, caught between fear and something that felt dangerously like hope. And then he kissed her, soft, hesitant, a whisper against a lifetime of silence. When he pulled back, guilt flickered across his face. I'm sorry, he whispered. Don't be, she said gently. Sometimes pain and healing come from the same place. They stood there, the rain still whispering against the windows, until she quietly excused herself. Neither said good night. Neither had to. That night, sleep didn't come easily for either of them. Zara lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering when a job became something that touched her heart this deeply. And across the hall, Hyun Woo sat by his window, watching the city lights blur in the rain. He wasn't sure what tomorrow would bring. He only knew that for the first time in years, he didn't feel alone. Zara, Hyun Woo said, glancing up from the tablet on his desk. The company's charity gala is this weekend. I want you and Mia to come. Zara blinked. Me? Sir, that's for executives and their families. I'm just part of this family, he interrupted gently. Mia would never forgive me if I left you behind. She tried to protest, but his tone left no room. Yes, sir, she said quietly, wondering why her pulse had quickened. Saturday evening, the mansion buzzed with stylists and tailors. Mia twirled in a tiny silver dress while Zara stood uncertain in front of the mirror, smoothing the dark satin gown a designer had insisted she wear. You look like a queen, Auntie Zara, Mia declared. Zara laughed softly, more like a very nervous teacher. Then the door opened, and Hyun Woo stepped in wearing a tailored black tuxedo. For a heartbeat, both simply stared. He cleared his throat. You look perfect. Her smile faltered into something shy. Thank you, sir. You clean up nicely yourself. Mia giggled. Let's go before you two start blushing. The ballroom of the Grand Seoul Hotel gleamed under 1,000 crystal lights. Guests in diamonds and velvet murmured over champagne. Photographers lined the red carpet. Hyun Woo guided Zara and Mia through the crowd, the flash of cameras constant. Smile for the press, he murmured. They love seeing a happy father and daughter. Zara smiled for MIA's sake, not realizing how natural she looked standing beside him, how easily the three of them could be mistaken for a family. Executives greeted Hyun Woo with handshakes. Women in designer gowns cast curious glances at the elegant woman at his side. Zara felt their eyes and whispered, I think they're wondering who I am. They'll know soon enough, he said, tone unreadable. Hours later, the orchestra struck a slow waltz. Mia had drifted off with another child to see the dessert table. Hyun Woo turned to Zara. Would you dance with me? Me? I can't. You can, he said simply, offering his hand. She took it. The crowd blurred into color as they moved. At first stiff, then effortlessly in rhythm, their eyes found each other and held. You're doing fine, he said softly. I haven't danced in years. Neither have I, he confessed. Not since, he stopped. Not since before. Zara looked up at him, understanding. Then we are both relearning. For a moment the world was only music and heartbeat. The final note lingered. They were standing close, too close. She looked up, breath catching. He hesitated only a second before leaning in, a tender, grateful brush of lips that felt more like a promise than a question. And then, flash. Gasps rippled through the ballroom. Cameras lifted. Voices murmured. Hyun Woo froze. Zara stepped back, her eyes wide. The orchestra fell silent, the sound of shutters clicking filling the air. Someone whispered, That's the CEO's nanny. Another voice, sharper. Did you see that? Hyun-woo turned toward the reporters, his jaw tightening. Zara could see it in his eyes. The fear, the calculation, the regret, and the undeniable truth of what had just happened. Security moved to push the photographers back, but the damage was done. The flash still burned behind Zara's eyelids. Hyun-woo reached for her hand instinctively, then stopped himself. "Let's get Mia," he said quietly. As they hurried from the ballroom, whispers followed them like a tide. Outside, the night air hit cool and sharp. For a long second, they simply looked at each other, two people standing on the edge of something vast and uncertain. Zara finally said, "The world saw Hyun-woo." He nodded. "Then everything changes tomorrow." And somewhere behind them, the city lights blinked like 1,000 restless eyes. Morning broke over the Kang estate to a storm of flashing lights. Reporters crowded the gates, shouting questions, lenses glinting like shards of ice. Zara stood at the window clutching MIA's hand, the little girl half asleep against her side. Down below, Hyun-woo spoke quietly to his head of security. Then, instead of hiding behind tinted glass, he walked straight toward the chaos. "Sir, don't," one guard urged. "It's time," Hyun-woo said. The iron gates opened, and the noise exploded. "Mr. Kang, was that kiss real? Who is she? Are you in a relationship with your nanny?" Zara's breath caught. She could see him from the balcony, tall, composed, the calm center of a hurricane. He raised a hand and the crowd hushed, microphones lifting. "Last night's photo was not a misunderstanding," he said, voice carrying clear and steady. "Zara Henderson has been in my daughter's life, and mine, for months. She is not a scandal. She is family. She is the woman I respect and—" He hesitated, the smallest smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "The woman I love." A wave of noise rippled through the press line, gasps, camera clicks, shouted questions, but he didn't flinch. "That's all I have to say," he finished. "Please give us space to live our lives with the dignity every family deserves." He turned back toward the mansion, leaving the reporters stunned into silence. Inside, Zara met him at the doorway, eyes wide. "You said that in front of the entire country," she whispered. "I know," he replied softly. "And I meant every word." For the first time since the flashbulbs began, she smiled, small, disbelieving, but real. Outside, the noise swelled again. Inside, everything finally felt quiet. The next few days felt like living inside a headline. Every network replayed Hyun-woo's declaration. Every magazine printed Zara's photo beside the words "the CEO" and "the nanny." At first, the noise was deafening. Critics, gossip shows, investors calling for damage control. But then something shifted. Clips of Hyun-woo's calm voice went viral. "She is not a scandal. She is family." People started to admire the honesty, the courage. The stock even climbed again. Inside the mansion, the tension slowly melted. Mia would run to the gate each morning to shout at the reporters. No more shouting. "Daddy loves Auntie Zara." Even the press laughed. Zara tried to stay in the background, but Hyun-woo wouldn't let her fade. He took her hand one afternoon and said, "I've spent years hiding behind my title. You helped me remember I'm still human." She smiled faintly. "You realize your PR team will never forgive you." "Let them," he said. "They can write our love story next quarter's report." A month later, the same charity organization hosted another event, this time outdoors, a children's fair for underprivileged schools. Zara helped Mia hand out art supplies while Hyun-woo met donors. Reporters were there again, of course, but the tone had changed. There was warmth in the way they covered them now. When the speeches ended, Hyun-woo stepped to the microphone. "Some lessons don't come from boardrooms," he said. "Sometimes they come from courage, from kindness, and from the people who remind you what love looks like." The crowd applauded. Cameras flashed, but this time, no one gasped. Zara stood beside him, holding MIA's hand. Hyun-woo looked at them both. The life he'd never expected to find, and smiled. Hyun-woo slipped an arm around her shoulders. "You're quiet," he murmured. "Just thinking how strange it feels," she said. All this started with a job application. And ended with a family, he replied. She turned to him, laughter soft against the hum of the city. You know they'll never stop talking about us. Let them talk, he said. We'll keep living. MIA's sleepy voice came from behind them. Daddy, Auntie Zara, can we go home now? Hyunwoo smiled. We already are, princess. The camera flashes in the distance sparkled like fireflies, fading into the night, no longer a threat, just light. And as the three of them walked toward the car, the world finally saw what they were all along. Not a scandal, not a story, but a family that had learned to love in the spotlight. 1 year later, the auditorium buzzed with quiet anticipation. The banners read, Kang Foundation for Education and Equality, inaugural launch. Zara stood backstage, heart thudding beneath her tailored navy dress. Through the curtain she could see the front row, Hyunwoo, proud as ever in a grey suit, and Mia in a tiny white dress holding a paper program that she decorated with stickers. Zara took a slow breath. She remembered the first time she'd walked into his office, nervous, unsure, just another applicant for a nanny position. Now she was about to address a room full of ministers, donors, and journalists. A stagehand whispered, You're up. The lights dimmed. Applause rippled as she stepped out into the glow. Good evening, Zara began, her voice steady but warm. When I first came to Seoul, I was a teacher looking for purpose. I found a home, a family, and a reason to believe that love and kindness can bridge worlds. The crowd listened closely. Cameras clicked softly, not with gossip this time, but with respect. This foundation exists for every child who deserves an education without prejudice, for every voice that deserves to be heard. I'm living proof that when compassion meets courage, change is possible. She paused, smiling toward the front row. Hyunwoo's eyes met hers, the same quiet strength that had carried them through scandal and silence. Mia waved proudly, whispering, Go, Mommy. Zara's heart lifted. They say love stories fade when the cameras stop, she finished. But ours became something more, a promise to keep lighting the way for others. The audience rose in applause. Some stood, some wiped tears. Hyunwoo joined her on stage, hand in hers, Mia between them. To new beginnings, he said softly. To brighter futures, she replied. The photographers captured the moment, not as a headline, but as history. And as flashlights sparkled around them once more, Zara thought of the question that had started it all. What if love wasn't the end of the story, but the start of something greater? Thank you so much for watching. Your support really means the world to me. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll know as soon as we upload another story.